Hare Krishna. During the hot summer season, sandalwood paste is smeared all over the body of the deities. The cooling effect of the sandalwood is very pleasing to the body of the Lord. For satisfying the Lord, the devotees persevere greatly. Sri Madhvendra Puri, a great Vaishnava saint, exemplified this. Before Lord Chaitanya appeared, he sent his eternal associates like Sri Adwaita Acharya, Sri Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, Madhvendra Puri and Ishwar Puri to earth. Sri Madhvendra Puri took initiation from Lakshmati Tirth in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. He had many disciples, but Sri Adwaita Acharya and Sri Ishwar Puri were the chief disciples of Madhvendra Puri. The Lord reciprocates with his pure devotees. Let's hear the pastime of Sri Gopal Ji, how he reciprocated with his beloved devotee Sri Madhvendra Puri. Once Sri Madhvendra Puri came to Vrindavan, and because he was almost mad due to his ecstatic love of Godhead, he did not know whether it was day or night. Sometimes he would stand up and sometimes he would fall to the ground without being able to judge what sort of place he was in. After circumambulating Govardhan hill, Madhvendra Puri bathed in Govind Kund and then sat beneath a tree to rest for the night. As Madhvendra Puri sat, an unknown cowherd boy came to him that evening. After placing a clay pot before him, the boy smilingly spoke as follows. Please drink this milk that I have brought for you. Why don't you beg for some food? What kind of meditation are you performing? Madhvendra Puri felt very satisfied just to see the great beauty of this boy. And indeed, upon hearing his sweet words, he forgot all hunger and thirst. Madhvendra Puri inquired, Who are you? And where do you live? How did you know that I have been fasting? The boy replied, Sir, I am a cowherd boy and I reside in this village. No one fasts here. Some people beg food from others and some drink only milk. And if a person does not ask anyone for food, then I supply his eatables. The woman had seen you here when they came to fetch water, and so they gave me this milk for you. Now I must go and milk the cows, but I shall return shortly and take the milk pot back from you. After saying this, the boy suddenly disappeared in a very mysterious way that left Madhvendra Puri's heart filled with wonder. After drinking the milk, he washed the pot and put it aside. And although he continually looked toward the path, the cowherd boy did not return. Madhvendra Puri could not sleep, and so he stayed awake the whole night, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Finally, at the end of the night, he dozed off a little, and in his dream, the very same cowherd boy appeared to him. Taking his hand, the boy led Madhvendra Puri to a dense forest, wherein he pointed to a thicket and said, I reside in this bush, and thus I suffer greatly from the severe cold, torrential rain, harsh winds, and scorching heat. Please bring the village people and have them take me out from this bush and then nicely situate me on top of the hill. Construct a temple there and then install me, bathing me with a large quantity of cold water so that my body may become completely cleansed. For many days I have been observing you and wondering, when will Madhvendra Puri come here to serve me? My name is Gopal and I am the lifter of Govardhan hill. I have accepted your service because of your ecstatic love for me. I was originally installed by Vraj and shall once again appear so that by my audience all of the fallen souls may be delivered. When the Mohammedans attacked, the Pujari who was serving me hid me in this bush and then ran away out of fear. Ever since that time, I have been staying here, and so it is very good that you have come. Now, please remove me with great care. After saying this, the boy disappeared. When Madhvendra Puri awoke and began considering his dream, he lamented. Although I was able to see Lord Krishna directly, I could not recognize him. While saying this, Madhvendra Puri fell to the ground in ecstasy. After crying for some time, he pacified himself by fixing his mind on executing Gopal's order. Madhvendra Puri first of all bathed, and then he went to the village. After assembling all the people, he spoke to them as follows. The proprietor of this village, Govardhan is lying in the bushes, and so let us go and rescue him. The forest is very dense, and so you must bring some choppers and spades to clear the way. After hearing this, all of the people accompanied Madhvendra Puri with great enthusiasm, and under his direction they cleared a path into the forest. Thereafter, when they saw the deity covered with dirt and grass, the people were struck with wonder and felt great pleasure. After cleaning the body of the Lord, some of the people said, "The deity is too heavy for any of us to move." Some stronger men were then brought, and they managed to carry the deity to the top of Govardhan hill. Under Madhvendra Puri's direction, a big stone was made into an altar, and then after the deity was placed upon it, another big stone was placed behind to support him. The Brahmanas from the village brought water from Govind Kund in lined large pots and then filtered it. Thereafter a great installation ceremony commenced, and all around there was singing, dancing, and the playing of musical instruments. All of the milk, yogurt, ghee was collected from the village and brought there, as well as an indescribable number of sweets and other food preparations. In addition, the villagers brought a great quantity of tulsi leaves, flowers, and various types of cloth. After all inauspicious elements were driven away by chanting mantras, Madhvendra Puri began the Abhishek. First of all, the deity was massaged with a large quantity of oil so that his body became very glossy. Next, the deity was bathed in Panchgavya, that is, milk, yogurt, ghee, cow's urine, and cow dung, and Panchamrita, that is, milk, yogurt, ghee, sugar, and honey. And then the Mahasnan was performed with ghee and water that had been brought in 100 pots. After the Mahasnana, the deity was once again massaged with scented oil. Finally, the last bathing was performed using scented water that had been kept within a conch shell. The deity was then dressed very nicely in new garments, and sandalwood paste, tulsi garlands, and other fragrant flower garlands were placed on his body. Incense and lamp were offered, and all kinds of food were prepared before the deity, as well as pots of scented drinking water. After this, the deity was offered water for washing his mouth, along with pan mixed with a variety of spices. Bhog Aarti was then performed, and afterwards all of the people offered prayers while falling flat before the deity in full surrender. While arranging for the Lord to rest, Madhvendra Puri brought a new cot and covered it with an unused cloth. A temporary temple was then made by enclosing the bed on all sides with straw mattresses, and the Lord laid down to rest. After this, Madhvendra Puri called together all of the Brahmana cooks and said, "Now feed everyone sumptuously, from the small children up to the aged." As soon as news of the deity installation spread, all of the villagers brought their entire stock of rice, dal, and wheat flour, and the potters brought all kinds of cooking pots. The cooking began in the morning, as 10 Brahmanas prepared the grains, 5 Brahmanas cooked the vegetables, and 5 or 7 men made a huge quantity of chapatis covered with ghee. New cloths were then spread over the ground, and upon them were placed palas leaves stacked high with cooked rice. Around the rice was placed stacks of chapatis, and around them were put the pots containing the vegetable preparations. Alongside these were placed pots of yogurt, milk, kheera, cream, and innumerable sweets. In this way, the Annakuta ceremony was performed. Madhvendra Puri offered all these preparations to Gopal, and the Lord, who had been hungry for many days, ate everything. And yet, although Gopal ate all the food that had been offered to him, by the touch of his transcendental hand, everything remained as before. How this was enacted was transcendently perceived by Madhvendra Puri. However, for nothing remains a secret to the devotees of the Lord. Miraculously, this wonderful festival was arranged in just one day. Certainly, it was possible only by the potency of Gopal, but no one except a devotee can understand this. After the Lord was invited to rest, all of the people sat down to honor prasad, and the Brahmanas and their wives were served first. Not only the people of the Govardhan village were served prasad, but all others who happened to come there. Upon seeing the wonderful influence of Madhvendra Puri, everyone was amazed, for it was by his mercy that they were able to witness the very same Annakuta ceremony that had been performed during the time of Lord Krishna. All of the Brahmanas present were initiated into Vaishnavism by Madhvendra Puri, and then engaged by him in various types of service for the satisfaction of Gopal. When the news spread that Lord Gopal had appeared atop Govardhan hill, all of the people from the neighboring villages came to see him. One after another, the residents of these villages begged Madhvendra Puri to allot them one day to perform the Annakuta ceremony. And thus, there was a great festival every day for some time. Madhvendra Puri would fast throughout the entire day, and then at night, after the deity had laid down to rest, he ate a little milk preparation. The next morning, preparations would begin again for a great festival. As the people from an appointed village would arrive, bringing all their eatables with them, every day throngs of people came to Govardhan hill from all over just to see the deity Gopal and take Mahaprasad sumptuously. The ideal place to execute Krishna consciousness is Vrajbhumi, where the people are naturally inclined to love Lord Krishna, and Krishna is naturally inclined to love them. When those who came to see the deity beheld the super excellent form of Lord Gopal, all of their lamentation and unhappiness immediately disappeared. Besides the neighboring villages, the people of other provinces came to know about Gopal's appearance, and so they also journeyed to Govardhan hill, bringing with them all kinds of presentations. The rich men of Mathura brought countless offerings of gold, silver, garments, and other things, so that the opulence of Gopal increased daily. One very rich Kshatriya constructed a temple, someone else donated cooking utensils, another person constructed boundary walls. Each and every family in the land of Rajbhumi contributed one cow, and thus Gopal became the possessor of thousands of cows. After some time, two Brahmana sannyasi came from Bengal, and because Madhvendra Puri liked them very much, he initiated them and entrusted them with daily worship of the deity. The worship of Lord Gopal was thus performed in a very gorgeous manner, and upon seeing this, Madhvendra Puri felt great satisfaction. Then one day, 2 years after the installation of the deity, Madhvendra Puri dreamt that Gopal came and addressed him as follows: "My bodily temperature has not decreased. Please bring me some Malay sandalwood and smear the paste all over my body to make me cool. You can acquire the sandalwood at Jagannath Puri. Please go quickly, for there is no one else who can execute this task." After awakening, when Madhvendra Puri thought about this dream, he felt great ecstasy. First of all, he made the necessary arrangement so that the deity worship would continue nicely in his absence. By assigning to different persons the various duties, then taking up the order of Lord Gopal, Madhvendra Puri departed for Bengal. When Madhvendra Puri arrived at his house in Shantipura, Adwaita Acharya became very pleased upon seeing his great manifestation of ecstatic love, and so begged him for initiation. After initiating Adwaita Acharya, Madhvendra Puri departed for Odisha. And when he came to Remuna, he visited the temple of Gopinath. Upon seeing the deity's great beauty, Madhvendra Puri became overwhelmed by ecstatic emotions, and so he chanted and danced in the temple for some time. Thereafter, when Madhvendra Puri sat down, he began thinking to himself as follows: "Since the deity worship here is performed with such excellence, I can understand that only the best food preparations are offered. Let me inquire from one of the Brahmanas about what kinds of food are offered to Gopinath, so that I can make similar arrangements for the worship of Gopal." When Madhvendra Puri questioned one of the Brahmanas in this way, the Pujari replied, "At the evening, Sandhya Bhoga, the deity is offered kheer in 12 clay pots. Because its taste is as good as nectar, it is called Amritakeli. This preparation is celebrated throughout the world as Gopinath Kheer, and nowhere else is it to be found." It so happened that as Madhvendra Puri was conversing with the Brahmana, the offering of kheer was placed before the deity. When Madhvendra Puri was informed of this, he thought, "If, without my asking, a little kheer is given to me, then I can taste it and make a similar preparation to be offered to Lord Gopal." However, when Madhvendra Puri realized that he had desired to taste the kheer before it had been offered to the deity, he became greatly ashamed, and so immediately began to think of Lord Vishnu. Thereafter, when the offering was finished, the Aarti began. At the end of the Aarti, Madhvendra Puri offered his obeisances to the deity and left the temple without informing anyone. Considering himself to have committed an offense, Madhvendra Puri went and sat down in the deserted village marketplace and began chanting the holy name of the Lord. Meanwhile, the pujari put the deity to rest, and after finishing his duties, he also retired for the night. As the pujari slept, the Gopinath deity came to him in his dream and spoke as follows: "Please get up and go into the temple. I have kept a pot of kheer for the sannyasi Madhvendra Puri behind my cloth. Because of this trick, you did not see it. Please take this pot of kheer and deliver it to Madhvendra Puri, who is now sitting in the vacant marketplace." After hearing this, the Brahmana immediately awoke and then bathed before entering the deity's room. After opening the deity's door, the pujari found the pot of kheer. He removed it and mopped the floor. Then, after going into the marketplace, the pujari called out in each and every stall, "Will he whose name is Madhvendra Puri please come and take this pot of kheer? For Gopinath has stole it for you. Enjoy this prasad with great happiness, for you are the most fortunate person within the three worlds." Upon hearing this, Madhvendra Puri came out and identified himself, and so the pujari delivered the pot of kheer to him and offered his obeisances. When Madhvendra Puri heard from the Brahmana about how Gopinath had stolen the kheer for his sake, he at once became absorbed in ecstatic love for Krishna. Upon seeing the transcendental symptoms of manifested by Madhvendra Puri, the pujari was struck with wonder and could understand why Krishna had become so much obliged to him. The Brahman once again offered his obeisances by falling flat before Madhvendra Puri, and then he returned to the temple. After eating the kheer in great ecstasy, Madhvendra Puri washed the clay pot, broke it into small pieces, and carefully tied them up in his outer cloth. Each day thereafter he used to eat one piece of that clay pot, and upon doing so, he would immediately become overwhelmed by ecstasy. Madhvendra Puri then began to think, "The Lord has given me a pot of kheer, and when the people hear of this miracle tomorrow morning, great crowds will come to see me." While thinking like this, Madhvendra Puri offered his obeisances to Gopinath and then left Remuna before sunrise. Finally, Madhvendra Puri reached Nilanchala, and when he saw the deity of Lord Jagannath, he became overwhelmed by loving ecstasy, so that sometimes he stood up and sometimes he fell to the ground. Sometimes he laughed, sometimes he danced and sang, and in this way he enjoyed transcendental bliss while seeing Lord Jagannath. Due to Madhvendra Puri's great spiritual influence, crowds of people came and offered him all sorts of respect and service. Thus, even though he had fled Remuna out of fear of his reputation, the transcendental fame brought about by love of God is so sublime that it goes along with the devotee, as if following him. Because of this, Madhvendra Puri would have also left Jagannath Puri, but he did not do so, for that would have hampered his mission. Madhvendra Puri related to the servants of Lord Jagannath the story of Gopal's appearance, and when they heard that the deity wanted sandalwood, they endeavored to collect it with great pleasure. Those who were acquainted with government officers met them, and by begging, they were able to get the necessary sandalwood and camphor. One Brahman and one servant were given to Madhvendra Puri just to carry the heavy load, and he was also provided with the necessary travelling expenses and release papers to show the toll collectors along the way. Madhvendra Puri departed, and after a few days he reached Remuna. He offered his obeisances repeatedly at the lotus feet of the Lord Gopinath. And then, in great ecstasy, he began singing and dancing without cessation. The pujari brought the kheer prasad, and after offering his obeisances, he made Madhvendra Puri eat. That night, Madhvendra Puri rested in the temple, and just before morning he dreamt that Gopal came before him and said, "I have already received the sandalwood and camphor that you have brought. Now grind the sandalwood along with the camphor and smear the paste over Gopinath's body daily until the entire supply is finished. Madhvendra Puri, there is no difference between my body and Gopinath's body, and thus if you smear the sandalwood paste over his body, you will automatically apply it to mine. In this way, my high temperature will be reduced. Please do not hesitate to execute this order. Just believe me and do what is needed." After giving these instructions, Gopal disappeared. When Madhvendra Puri awoke, he called for the servants of Gopinath and said, "Take this sandalwood and camphor that I have brought from Jagannath Puri and apply it to the body of Gopinath. If you do this every day, then Gopal will also feel cool, for this is the order of the all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead." The servants of Gopinath were very pleased to hear that the sandalwood would be offered to their deity during the summer months. Madhvendra Puri then informed them, "The two assistants that have accompanied me will grind the sandalwood. You should hire 2 more persons to help them, and I will pay their salaries." In this way, Gopinath was supplied sandalwood paste daily. Madhvendra Puri remained at Ramuna until the entire supply was exhausted. At the end of summer, Madhvendra Puri returned to Nilanchala so that he could remain there for the 4 months of the rainy season. Is there anyone within the world who is as fortunate as Madhvendra Puri? Krishna personally appeared before him on the plea of delivering milk, and then 3 times the Lord ordered him in dreams. Being obliged because of Madhvendra Puri's loving devotional service, Lord Krishna appeared as the Gopal deity, and by accepting his service, he liberated the entire world. For Madhvendra Puri, Lord Gopinath stole a pot of kheer, and thus he became famous as kheerchorgopinath. It was very inconvenient to travel through the provinces of India governed by the Mohammedans, and so Madhvendra Puri might have experienced great trouble while carrying the load of sandalwood and camphor. This was known to Gopal, and so the Lord mercifully allowed Madhvendra Puri's labor to become successful by smearing the sandalwood paste and camphor over the body of Gopinath. Sri Madhvendra Puri used to remain alone for fear of talking about mundane things. He was uninterested in everything material and was always silent. Madhvendra Puri avoided begging. If someone offered him some food, he would eat, otherwise he would fast. Such was the greatness of Madhvendra Puri that after receiving Gopal's order, this great personality travelled thousands of kilometers to collect sandalwood by begging. And even when he was hungry, he would not ask for food. Without considering his personal comforts, Madhvendra Puri carried about 37 kilos of sandalwood and 230 grams of camphor for smearing over the body of Gopal. In spite of travelling throughout provinces that were governed by the Mohammedans, he was not at all anxious. And although he had no money with him, he was not afraid to pass by the toll collectors. His only enjoyment was in carrying the load of sandalwood to Vrindavan. for the satisfaction of Gopal. Because Sri Gopal wanted to show the world just how intensely Madhvendra Puri loved Krishna, he asked him to go to Nilanchal to fetch sandalwood. Just to test Madhvendra Puri's intense love, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered him to bring the sandalwood, and then when he passed this examination, the Lord mercifully allowed him to smear the paste over the body of Gopinath. Such is the behavior that is exhibited between the devotee and his lovable object, Sri Krishna. Common men do not even have the capacity to understand such dealings. Hare Krishna.